If you are watching this, there is a good chance that you have lost someone. Maybe recently, maybe years ago, but the wound still feels fresh. Maybe a husband, maybe a wife, maybe a child, which is the loss that should never happen and yet does. Maybe your parents, maybe your closest friend, the one who knew you better than anyone. And maybe, if you have lived long enough, you have lost more than one. Maybe you have lost so many that you have started to feel like the last tree standing in a forest that has been cut down all around you. I know that feeling. I want you to know that before I say anything else. I am not speaking to you from a comfortable place where loss is just a word. I am speaking to you as a man who has buried more people than he ever thought his heart could survive burying. And I am still here, still breathing, still finding reasons to get up in the morning. And if I can, you can. That is not a slogan. That is a promise from someone who has walked the exact road you are walking right now. Let me start by telling you something that nobody else will tell you. The grief does not go away. I am not going to lie to you and say that time heals all wounds and one day you will wake up and it won't hurt anymore. That is not true. And anyone who tells you that has not lost what you have lost. The truth is harder and strangely more comforting than the lie. The grief does not go away, but it changes. It transforms. In the beginning, grief is a wild thing. It comes in waves that knock you off your feet. It ambushes you in the grocery store when you see their favorite food. It attacks you in the middle of the night when you reach across the bed and find it empty. It floods you at the most unexpected moments and drowns you, and you think you will never be able to breathe again. That is early grief, and it is brutal. But over time, and I cannot tell you exactly how much time because it is different for everyone, the grief changes its shape. It stops being a flood and becomes a river. It stops knocking you down and starts flowing alongside you. It is still there. It will always be there. But you learn to walk beside it instead of being swept away by it. You learn to carry it instead of being crushed by it. The weight does not get lighter. You get stronger. That is the secret. That is how people survive losses that look unsurvivable. Not because the loss gets smaller, because they grow bigger around it. My grandmother told me something when I lost the first person I ever truly grieved. She said, "Grief is just love with nowhere to go." Think about that. All that love you had for the person who is gone, it did not die when they died. It is still here, still inside you, still as strong as it ever was. But the person you used to give it to is no longer here to receive it. So it builds up. It has nowhere to go. And that backed up love, that dammed up river of affection that can no longer reach its destination, that is what grief actually is. It is not the absence of love. It is the overflow of it. And once you understand that, once you realize that your grief is just the measure of how much you loved, everything changes. Because then you stop trying to make the grief go away. You would not want to make it go away. Making the grief go away would mean making the love go away. And you do not want that. You want to keep loving them. So you keep grieving them. And you find new places for the love to go. That is the first thing I want to teach you. Find new places for the love to go. The love that you cannot give to the person who is gone, you can give to other people, to the living, to your other family members, to strangers who need kindness, to a garden, to an animal, to a cause, to anyone or anything that can receive the love that is overflowing inside you with nowhere to land. This is not betrayal. This is not forgetting them. This is the opposite. This is honoring them. Because the love you are giving away came from them. It was grown in the relationship you had with them. And every time you give it to someone new, you are carrying a piece of the person you lost into the world. You are keeping them alive by living the love they taught you. I want to tell you about the early days, because the early days are the hardest, and nobody prepares you for how strange they are. In the first days and weeks after you lose someone, the world does something cruel. It keeps going. The sun comes up like nothing happened. The mail still arrives. People still laugh in the grocery store. Cars still drive past your window. And it feels like an insult. How dare the world continue when the person who was your entire world has stopped? How dare the birds keep singing? How dare the coffee still taste like coffee? There is a rage that comes in early grief, a rage at the ordinariness of a world that should have stopped to acknowledge what you lost and did not. I felt that rage many times, and I want you to know that it is normal. It is part of it. The world not stopping is not a sign that your loss does not matter. It is just the way of things. The river keeps flowing even when one of us steps out of it. And eventually, and this is the strange part, the fact that the world keeps going becomes the thing that saves you. Because the world keeping going means there is still a world for you to rejoin when you are ready. The coffee still tasting like coffee means there is still something to come back to. The birds still singing means the song never stopped, and one day you will be able to hear it as music again instead of as an insult. Before I share the next teaching, one quick thing. Everything I have been pulling out of these old ways, the teachings about grief, about surviving loss, about finding peace when the people you love are gone, I have written it all down. 20 teachings, 4 parts, in the order they were meant to be received. It is called the Native Way. You can scan the QR code on the screen with your phone or find the link in the pinned comment. But stay right here, because what I am about to share next is the part that the grieving tell me brought them the most comfort. I want to talk about something that you might be doing that you feel embarrassed about. You might be talking to them, the person who is gone. You might catch yourself speaking to your husband while you cook dinner, saying goodnight to your wife before you turn off the light, telling your mother about your day while you sit in her old chair, asking your friend for advice when you face a hard decision. And you might feel like you are losing your mind, like you should not be doing this, like a healthy person would have stopped by now. I want to tell you something. Keep doing it. There is nothing wrong with you. In our tradition, the dead are not gone. They are not erased. They have simply moved to a different room in the same house. And we talk to them all the time. We talk to our ancestors. We ask them for guidance. We tell them our troubles. We feel their presence in the wind and the sunlight and the quiet moments before sleep. Talking to the people you have lost is not a sign of madness. It is a sign of love. It is a sign that the relationship did not end. It only changed form. You cannot hold their hand anymore, but you can still talk to them. And somewhere, in a way that neither you nor I can fully understand, I believe they hear you. I believe the love still travels, even across the distance that death creates. Love is the one thing that distance cannot stop. Let me tell you about a man I knew named Earl. Earl lost his wife, Dorothy, after 53 years of marriage. 53 years. They had been together since they were teenagers. They had never spent more than a few nights apart in their entire adult lives. And when Dorothy passed, Earl did not know how to exist. He did not know how to be a person who was not half of Earl and Dorothy. He had forgotten how to be just Earl. He had been Earl and Dorothy for so long that the word I felt strange in his mouth. He kept saying, We are having chicken tonight. We need to call the plumber. We are not feeling well today." Because in his mind, they were still a we. And his children worried about him. They thought he was in denial. They thought he needed to face reality. But I understood what Earl was doing. He was not in denial. He was in transition. He was slowly, painfully, learning to carry a 53-year marriage inside a body that now had to walk alone. And that takes time. You cannot rush a man through that. You cannot tell him to get over a love that took 53 years to build. You have to let him grieve at the pace that the love requires. And big love requires big grief. There is no shortcut. The size of the grief is the receipt for the size of the love. And Earl's love was enormous. So his grief was enormous. And that was right. That was exactly as it should be. What saved Earl was not getting over Dorothy. He never got over Dorothy. What saved Earl was learning to bring Dorothy with him into his new life. He started doing the things she loved. He tended her garden, which he had never cared about when she was alive. He learned her recipes. He played her favorite music on Sunday mornings. He visited the places they used to go together, not to torture himself, but to feel close to her. And slowly, Earl built a new life that had Dorothy woven all through it. She was not gone from his life. She was present in a different way. In the flowers she planted, in the meals he cooked, in the music that filled the house. And Earl told me near the end of his own life that the years after Dorothy passed, as painful as they were, taught him something he never knew when she was alive. He said, "I used to think love was about being together. Now I know love is about carrying someone with you, whether they are there or not. I carried Dorothy every single day, and in carrying her, I was never truly alone. Even in an empty house, I was never alone, because she was in everything." I want to address the loneliness specifically, because losing someone you love is not just grief. It is loneliness of a particular and brutal kind. It is the loneliness of an empty chair, the loneliness of cooking for one, the loneliness of having news to share and no one to share it with, the loneliness of the bed that is too big now, the loneliness of the silence where their voice used to be. This loneliness is different from ordinary loneliness because it is haunted. It is loneliness in a space that used to be full. And that is the hardest loneliness there is. I will not pretend it is easy, but I will tell you what helps. What helps is filling the silence with new sounds, not to drown out the memory, but to keep the house alive. Music, the radio, a pet that makes noise and needs you, visits from people, even when you do not feel like company, the voice of a friend on the phone. You have to keep sound in the house, because total silence in a house that used to be full is a kind of torture, and you do not deserve to be tortured. You deserve to heal, and healing requires you to gently, slowly, fill the empty spaces with new life. Not to replace what you lost. Nothing can replace what you lost, but to keep yourself alive while you carry the loss. I knew a woman named Ruth who lost her husband and could not bear the silence of the house afterward. For months she sat in that silence and it almost destroyed her. And then one day her neighbor gave her a small radio, an old one, and Ruth started keeping it on all day. Just voices, just music, just sound. And she told me that the radio saved her life, not because she listened to it closely. Most of the time she was not even paying attention to what was playing. But the sound meant the house was not a tomb. The sound meant there was still life in the building. And slowly, with the radio keeping her company, Ruth started to come back. She started cooking again. She started inviting people over. She got a small dog that filled the house with the sound of nails clicking on the floor and the occasional bark at nothing. And the house that had been a tomb became a home again. Not the same home, a different home. A home with one person in it instead of two, but a home, a living home, where the silence no longer threatened to swallow her whole. If you are sitting in a silent house right now, mourning someone, I am telling you, turn on a sound. Any sound. It is not disrespectful to the dead to keep the living world alive around you. It is necessary. It is how you survive. There is something else I need to say, and it is important. You are allowed to be happy again. I know that might sound strange, but so many grieving people carry a secret guilt. They feel that if they laugh, if they enjoy a meal, if they feel a moment of joy, they are betraying the person they lost, as if their grief is the last thing connecting them to the person, and to release the grief even for a moment is to release the person. I need you to hear me. The person you lost does not want you to suffer. If they loved you, and they did, they want you to be happy. They want you to laugh again. They want you to feel the sun on your face and enjoy a good meal and find reasons to smile. Your happiness does not betray them. Your happiness honors them, because your happiness is proof that the love they gave you was strong enough to carry you through even the loss of them. When you laugh again, you are not forgetting them. You are showing the world what they built in you. A person strong enough to survive. A person capable of joy even after the deepest loss. That is their legacy, your ability to keep living. Do not rob them of that legacy by refusing to live. I knew a widow named Helen who did not laugh for 2 years after her husband died, not once. She had decided somewhere deep inside that laughing would be a betrayal, that a good wife who truly loved her husband would mourn him forever and never feel joy again. And so she punished herself. She refused every invitation. She turned away from every moment of lightness. She wore her grief like a uniform that she could never take off. And one day her young grandson told her a joke, a silly joke, the kind of joke that only a child finds funny. And Helen, caught off guard, laughed. A real laugh. It burst out of her before she could stop it, and then immediately she clapped her hand over her mouth and her eyes filled with tears because she felt that she had done something terrible. She had laughed. She had betrayed him, and her grandson, this small boy, looked at her confused and said, "Grandma, why are you sad that you laughed? Grandpa loved when you laughed." And Helen broke down completely. Because the boy was right. Her husband had loved her laugh. He used to do silly things just to hear it. He would have been heartbroken to know that his death had stolen her laughter forever. And in that moment, Helen understood that her 2 years of refusing to laugh had not honored her husband. It had betrayed him, because he wanted her happy. He always wanted her happy. And the best way to honor him was to be the woman he fell in love with. The woman who laughed. Helen started laughing again after that day, and every time she did, she felt closer to her husband, not further away, because she was finally giving him what he always wanted, her joy. My grandfather told me that grief and gratitude are 2 sides of the same coin. He said, "You only grieve what you were grateful to have. The grief is the price of the gift." And he said, when the grief becomes too heavy, turn the coin over. Look at the gratitude side. Be grateful that you had them at all. Be grateful for the years you got. Be grateful for the love you shared. Be grateful that you got to be one of the people who knew them and was changed by knowing them. Because there are people who never had what you had. There are people who never knew a love worth grieving. The fact that you are in so much pain means that you were lucky enough to have something precious enough to hurt this much to lose. And that is a strange and difficult kind of blessing. But it is a blessing. The grief is proof that you lived a life rich enough to contain a loss this big. Not everyone gets that. You did. I want you to try something the next time the grief feels like it is going to crush you. Instead of fighting it, instead of pushing it away, turn it into gratitude. When you find yourself crying because they are gone, finish the sentence differently. Do not stop at, "I miss them so much." Add to it, "I miss them so much because they gave me so much to miss. I miss their voice because their voice brought me comfort for so many years. I miss their hands because their hands held me through the hardest times of my life. I miss their laugh because their laugh was the soundtrack to the happiest days I ever knew." Do you see what happens when you do that? The missing becomes a way of remembering everything good. The grief becomes a doorway to gratitude. You cannot have one without the other. They are the same coin. And the more you practice turning the coin over, the more you find that even your grief becomes a kind of love letter. A daily remembering of how much they meant, how much they gave, how lucky you were to have known them at all. That is how you carry the grief without being crushed by it. You let it remind you not of what you lost, but of what you were blessed to have. I want to leave you with this. The people you have lost are not asking you to stop living. They are asking you to live for both of you now, to see the sunsets they cannot see, to taste the food they cannot taste, to feel the joy they cannot feel. You are their eyes now. You are their hands. You are the way they continue to experience this world that they had to leave. So when you see something beautiful, see it for both of you. When you laugh, laugh for both of you. When you love someone new, love them with the whole heart that the people you lost helped to build. That is how you keep living after they are gone, not by leaving them behind, by taking them with you, every step, every day, until your own journey ends and you see them again. And I believe you will. I believe the love that felt too big to die does not die. I believe it waits. And I believe that one day, in a different room of the same house, you will be reunited with everyone you ever lost. But not yet. Not today. Today, you still have living to do. For you. And for them. So get up, open the curtains, let the light in, and keep living. They would want nothing less. I know that some days you will not be able to do any of this. Some days the grief will win, and you will not get out of bed, and you will not open the curtains, and you will not feel anything but the weight of who is missing. And I want you to know that those days are okay too. Healing is not a straight line. It is not a staircase where every step takes you higher. It is more like the ocean. Some days the tide is out, and you can walk for miles. Some days the tide comes in and knocks you down. And both are part of the same sea. So on the days when the grief wins, do not add guilt to your grief. Do not punish yourself for not being strong enough. Just survive the day. That is enough. Surviving the day is a victory when you are grieving. And tomorrow the tide might go back out, and you might be able to walk again. You do not have to heal all at once. You do not have to heal on anyone's schedule. You just have to keep breathing through the days when the tide is in, so that you are still here for the days when it goes back out. That is all. Keep breathing. The rest will come. Slowly. In its own time. The way dawn comes after the longest night. Not all at once, but surely, inevitably. The light always returns, even to the darkest grief. The light always returns. If what you heard today stayed with you, the book is there. The Native Way. 20 teachings, 100 pages, written the way I would speak to you if we were sitting together. Scan the QR code on the screen with your phone or find the link in the comments. Read one chapter. Sit with it. Now I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, who did you lose, and what is the one thing about them you carry with you every day? Say their name here. Let the world know they mattered. I read every comment. And if this is the kind of conversation you have been looking for, subscribe to this channel. We are not collecting viewers here. We are collecting people who remember. Come back next week. I am not done teaching yet.